Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Nashville, Tennessee, the home of rock and roll.
No,
This is
country music.
Country music. This is Wisdom of the Sages, Daily Yoga Podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Nashville. Me, Mara, Bhakti Vinod, right? What's Bhakti Vinod's name again?
King of Hearts.
King of Hearts. Doyal Garanga, who has no nickname. We've got to get him a nickname. We're all here. A bunch. It's almost like a little reunion we're happening here in Nashville for the Maha Mahotsav celebration of Cindy and Stephen's wedding.
Yeah.
Quite wonderful event yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, it was very, very sweet. Oh, they're on here. Hare Krishna. We want to give a big shout out and a prayers for love and success. You know, when two people come together that are both focused on Krishna, it becomes very powerful, not just for them, but for everybody around them. And that's what we're sort of experiencing with their Yoga Soul Bhakti Center. Yes, you heard that right. Their studio is called the Yoga Soul Bhakti Center. And you said, well, are they talking about the Bhakti Center in New York? Are they talking about Super Soul Yoga? No, it's a double copyright infringement, which is going on in the courts right now. The lawyers, we contacted them immediately after the wedding. But no, they have the Center for Bhakti here in Nashville. And I just see they give Bhagavad Gita classes like 3 times a week. I think at least 3 times a week. And yeah, this is how you get the mercy of the acharyas or the masters that are predecessors, is you're just focused on a mission like that. And then you see it's not even you anymore. It's like Krishna's working through these two. And they're doing together better what they were doing alone, you know, and to see them come together like this, 2 is more than 1 + 1.
The whole is greater than the sum of its
The
parts.
whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Thank you. And I'm really proud of them, really inspired by them. And we were all touched, moved, and inspired last night by their wedding. Thank you.
Great. I wish I could have been there, but I'm very happy for the couple.
Great couple. So that's what's going on in Nashville.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm over here.
Yeah, how's
And,
Govardhan Hill? You having some
wonderful.
magical experiences?
Absolutely. Just wonderful here, you know.
Yeah.
Arrived, you know, in the afternoon, and the next morning I just headed out there on the trail. You know, did my Govardhan Parikrama with 14-mile barefoot walk around the hill, and just at every step, just very enriched with the.
You went barefoot, huh?
Yeah, you go barefoot, don't you?
You know what? I've not been going barefoot. I've not been.
Yeah.
Well, we went partially barefoot.
What does that mean?
Well, the monkey stole one of my shoes. That happened.
Barefoot means one.
So it was
foot
sort of like
bare.
Govardhan himself telling me, time to take off your shoes. I'm setting a
Well,
monkey to.
nowadays, these little slipper things have become popular. Everybody's got them around here.
Yeah, I don't know. I get sore feet lately in my older age. My feet
Alright.
get sore and bruised. But yeah, I did go with the slippers for a while. Everyone's selling.
Anyway,
They're
you
felted
know-
slippers they sell for 15 rupees.
Yeah. Maybe you ought to try those. Seems like everybody accepts that that's like barefoot.
Isn't that interesting? It's like
Yeah,
it's just
but-
accepted. This is barefoot, just these felted
Yeah.
slippers. Well, why aren't my shoes barefoot? Oh, rubber is definitely not barefoot, but felted slippers are barefoot.
Maybe
What?
it's because
Who's
you
making up
only
these
use
rules?
those. Maybe you only use those for the parikrama. You don't use them for any other purpose. Maybe like that.
And then it's barefoot. The idea is the dust of Brudge is to be touching your feet. I don't know how.
Okay.
If my rubber Converse can't work,
Well, maybe
why
it's the
do
other way.
why do
Maybe
the
it's like
felted
your
slippers
shoes
work?
should not be touching the dust of Brudge. And therefore, if you get
May-
these special little slip-on things,
Yeah, maybe
then
it's
that's-
that. Maybe it's like Mara's dad when he comes in the house. You know, when you get to 80 years old, it's hard to like take your shoes on and off like that. He's
Mhm.
got bad ankles. So you know what he does, this sweet man? He
Puts
puts
those on
on
top.
little shoe covers when he comes to our
Yeah.
house. He brings them and slips them
Papatoni.
right over. How sweet is that? He's a top class act, this Papa Tony.
All right.
He's
Well, anyway,
really-
Raghunath, I checked out your lassi joint there in Jatipur.
What do you
You
think?
go up that alley. That is definitely a
Defi-
jumping joint.
Right?
There's so much happening up that place, and the mood is good.
The mood is good.
Did you? I got to that point where you said where you get it opens up into the U.
Yeah.
You had to picture this very thin alley.
Very thin.
And-
Right?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
it's-
everybody sits like in these kind of like raised little
Caves.
shops. Like you can't just walk into the shop. You got to step up into it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like they're sitting down, but they're kind of on your eye level. And
Yes.
and everybody's making jalebis. What a masterful, beautiful art that is, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it's a very narrow alley, and
Very
on
narrow,
both sides,
very
people are basically sitting at hip height
Yeah.
on their little. They have to. You can't go into their shop, but they're set.
That's
to
what I
you.
was
Yeah, yeah.
describing.
I'm just giving more description.
All
They
right.
all
Have
have
you?
these gigantic woks of oil or ghee.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
guy's selling butter. One guy's selling, and a lot of the things they're offering are for you to offer to the hill. Like there's all these cups of milk. There's all this butter they sell with sugar.
Monkeys flying through there.
Cows are walking through. You can barely walk anywhere that a bull walks through. It's such a scene, isn't it? But then
Yeah.
they start going to the stuff that you're going to eat, and they have really good kachoris,
Yeah.
really good samosas. I've had
They
them all.
didn't have kachoris. They didn't have fresh kachoris when I was there. I don't know if it was too early or
They,
something.
no, they do. Right in that alley on the left, they have them.
No, I went and that guy said, no, those are yesterday's kachoris. We don't have any right now.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
usually the kachori
but
guys
but
there.
then I got up. Now, when you get right to when it opens up, and also you have to picture, although it's this tight alley, but it's also they hang these tarps for shade over
Yeah.
the alley. So it's kind of like your indoor outdoor mall kind of thing.
It's
right?
like a
It makes it
tent.
that
You're
much
like you're
cooler.
in a tent. It's very cool.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
one of my favorite places just to sit.
But hold it. There's still more, right? Like so when you get to that corner, you went to the lassi guy on the left.
On the right.
I went on the left.
We've been to all of them. There's three.
Okay.
And they're all
They-
friends.
They knew when I said like little sugar, they were like expecting it. Like
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they
yeah.
watched Wisdom of the Sages and they knew you and they knew I was with you. And
Tori
they're
tori
just like-
chini chaye.
yes, exactly.
Tori tori
Chini.
chini chaye.
And so then he has a nice bench right there, sitting down the bench. And then
Great
you have-
bench.
They have something unique in that neighborhood, Raghunath.
Yeah.
Going up and down that alley, there's about like 4 or 5. They're beggars, but they're not like your common beggars. These are like well-dressed, sweetest beggars you're ever gonna. It's like they're
Sure.
like, I am a Brahmana that lives in Jatipur, therefore I'm special. Therefore, it's good for you. to
Yeah,
give me a
you're
donation."
you're doing yourself a favor.
You're doing yourself a favor. And they do it in the sweetest way. It's just like they're so sweet. Beautiful people with beautiful smiles and beautiful tilak on, and they just come up and it's just like it's a joy just to have them harass you, you know?
Wow. You know
Oh,
what Mara and Mara and myself did, which is more fun and joy than you can have for you can't get more fun and joy for less than $4 is
Okay.
so a lot of people will gather around those benches to sit and buy lassies, and you
Yeah.
go right up to the guy and you say, hey,
Everyone.
all these lassies, sub
me.
lassie, I pay. And you
Nice,
give them like
Raghunath.
500 rupees or
Nice.
and then everyone is so all the it's a bunch of random pilgrims, from all over Haryana, what is Haryana? Haryana, Delhi, Bihar. They're all just giving blessings. They're giving blessings. They want to take selfies with you. Wasn't that one of the more fun things we did?
Yeah, it really was. It was so sweet.
We
If
made
anybody
friends
wants to
every
know, you
day by
just,
buying lossies.
get to the tongue, go over on left up the alley. Everyone's got little Rade stamped on their face. They got me. They got
It's
me.
such a good scene,
girl.
isn't it? It's such a
Yeah,
good scene.
it totally happened. And then I went to Radhakund and I took my bath in Radhakund. It was, oh God, it's
Oh,
just
what a day.
sublime. It's just
What a day.
sublime. And then I was walking out, and who do I see? Of course, Mohan Panda.
Mohan Banda. He's like the king of Radhakund.
Yeah, it's your favorite Radhakund priest and mine. And I wasn't even going to do a whole thing with him. And I said hello. We
It's worth it.
connected. And then I just want to give him a donation just because he is who he is, So I gave him
Yeah.
something, and then he just grabbed me by the wrist and said, "Come on, we're doing this together." And this is what I love about Vrindavan, what I love about Bhakti, and what I love about these special people that you meet. It's the most common thing in India that you go to some holy place and there's some punda there. There's some ritual priest that brings you through the ritual, does it for you. You give them something, and a lot of times you don't feel their hearts into it. You feel like it's totally materialistic. They're asking
Mohan
you,
Panda's fully invested.
he's more than he's totally fully invested, but he's invested in the most sweetest and loving way. It's like every prayer, he says something and then you follow it, and he does what most priests don't do, is he starts to say the things in English too.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. It's
which is-
adorable.
yeah. And he's got you right down there by
Radharani,
the
liquid
water.
love.
Yeah, liquid love. And then he picks up that
Radhakund
liquid
super
love from the
best.
Kund. Yeah, and then
Vrindavan
he
best,
rubs-
Mayapur best, Radhakund super best.
super best, and then he rubs it into your head, and he's saying these beautiful prayers, and you just feel like it's the most loving hand you've ever had on you. And he's saying, "Come again and again to Radhakund, come again and again." And he's praying for you. You feel like this person's just praying for you without any reservation. And leading you in just a beautiful meditation. You have to. Then he turns around and invites you to come to his home for lunch. I mean,
And then you go to his home for
Come on.
lunch.
come
Anytime,
on.
it is your home. It is your home.
Yeah,
And his
he gives you
kids
his
are
card with his phone number on it.
his kids are liberated souls.
Oh, so sweet. So that was wonderful for me.
Did you go to his lunch? Did you have lunch there?
He said, "Next time you're in town, come to my home." He said,
You
like
should
that.
definitely go just to meet his kids.
I will.
And yeah, his kids told me something interesting too. He said, during the hot season and the rainy season, all the other pundas take off because it's sort of like holiday because not many pilgrims
There's not a
come.
lot of business there.
He said, but not my father. He will sit at Radhakund all day and evening, just waiting for anyone, if there's anyone to come. My father is 100% dedicated to serving the devotees at Radhakund.
Beautiful.
It was very beautiful. It
Beautiful.
was very beautiful.
The Krishna Bhakti, there's nothing like it. Right? But we better get into the show, Raghunath. Or
Okay,
announcements.
it's Q&A day, and Sandy Clemmers first.
But announcements, Mara?
Oh, announcements, Miss Mara.
We're back to recovery group meetings today at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time and 7 p.m.
Okay.
Kastuba, will you be good to do the show at 6 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow? But it'll be an hour earlier than our regular time.
That's
because
what
of
I
the
was
time change?
figuring. Yeah,
Okay.
so that would be 4:30 my time, correct? Yeah. That was my plan.
All right. Here's the cue, sir.
All right, let's do this.
I have a question that I know you can shed some
Say who
light
it's
on.
from. Say who it's from.
It's from Sandy Clemmer. She's friend/student from Boston. Known her for many years. She's been to India with me many times.
Okay.
Great soul, Sandy. I have a question that I know you can shed some light on. The concept of Purushartha is strong in Indian culture. And I understand it goes back at least to the Mahabharata, if not even much earlier. I would love to hear your general thoughts of Purushartha. And I've always been a little confused about how Kama fits into Bhakti and the Bhagavad Gita. Kama, K-A-M-A. How should I understand Purushartha and specifically Kama within the context of Bhakti when there is such emphasis on relinquishing desires or Kama? Or would Kama in Bhakti be defined by connecting in the Supreme, connecting to the Supreme, Krishna? I'm ever grateful to both of you and the community. You know, Kastuba, I am grateful to you and the community as well. And I'll say
I'm
both
grateful
of
for you
you,
and the
Mara
community.
too, and
Mara.
Doyal sitting here. I'm grateful for you. You want to go first with that, brother?
Sure. So Purushartha, that means Puru Sharta is a combination of two words. It's Puru refers to like humankind, I suppose. I mean, Purusha means person, Purusharta. So it means, and Arta means something of value. So Purusharta means like any object of human pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
And as Sandy said, you know, this goes way back in Indian culture, goes way back in Indian texts. Definitely it's there in Mahabharata, as she mentions. And I don't know if Mahabharata is the first place where put them all together like that and expanded on it at length. But certainly the four separate ones are certainly found. I think Dharma, Artha, and Kama are spoken about a lot in the Vedas. And maybe moksha, you know, was combined with them. I don't know if Mahabharata is the earliest place to find that or not, but yes, it's a very strong, very prevalent construct within the Hinduism and the Vedanta and the ancient teachings of these ancient texts. So dharma means, well, let's first kind of just give the gist. And you know what? There's a billion people, a billion commentators, a billion. So there's always someone that's going to twist it a little different way. But in general, the idea is that dharma means the discharge of your duties as they're outlined in the Vedic texts. So, you know, if you're a business person, you have certain duties as a business person, certain responsibilities. So, you know, to be charitable, to take care of the elders, to do this, to that. Whatever it may be, your duty is clear and you discharge that duty as you can call it a religious kind of observation, you know, like this is how I practice, you know, I'm responsible and dutiful in these different ways. Artha means the acquirement of wealth. And so the idea is if you are dharmic, if you are virtuous, then that leads to the cultivation of good karma and you become blessed with the good things in life. And those, you know, in this pious context, those generally means like a wonderful spouse, you know, wealth, the birth of healthy, loving children, you know, things like that. You know, you get blessed with these good results, you acquire wealth. And when in that situation, then naturally kama is there, the gratification of your desires, the love of the family, you know, a nice home, you know, whatever other, you know, good food, whatever it may be, your desires become fulfilled. The gratification of desire is kama. And then comes moksha, which means one lets go of it all and becomes free of their material entanglement, that their consciousness is able to let go of all these attachments and you can become free from your suffering in life and free from your entanglement in this world, and you could even transcend this world. So that's moksha. And so the idea is that there's kind of, this is a progression that someone could go through in your life. It's hard to renounce it all, you know, and achieve moksha. People will say that unless you've kind of gone through it and been in the end disappointed with kama, right? Like in the end saying, you know what, okay, I enjoyed these things, but there's more.
Sure.
I enjoyed these things, but whatever pleasure I get from the fulfillment of my desires, it also brought anxiety and pain, and there seems to be no way to get one without the other. I need to let go of it all. And so as one gets older, as one, you know, enjoys household life and enjoys the love of children, you know, love of spouse, etc., but then also goes through all the anxiety and the pain and the difficulties with that, that as one gets into their later years, they start to let go of it all, and that by the time they die, they've let go of everything and they achieve this moksha. Okay. So Sandy's question had to do with, well, in bhakti, how is that seen? And particularly, like, she brought up kama, because kama means, like, in one sense, it means materialistic desire. Is there another concept of kama in bhakti? And is there a concept of purushartha within bhakti? And it's a great question. And, the question allows us to highlight exactly what Sri Chaitanya taught. Like, if you go to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is a book that assimilates all the teachings from this lineage through a biography of Sri Chaitanya, featuring about 6 or 7 very important conversations he had with different very important people. This term Purushartha will come up. It'll come up in his talks with Prakashananda Saraswati in the 7th chapter of the Adi Leela, who is like, he was this big, important monist philosopher, sannyasi, who was like the leader of like hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of sannyasis in Varanasi, right? So the impersonalists, the kind of the school of Advaita Vedanta. There's a conversation where Sri Chaitanya mentions Purushartha with him. And there's also his teachings, I believe, to Sanatana Goswami. He also discusses this. And different terms are used. I thought I would share these terms. In one, he says, Panchama Purushartha, Krishna Prema Dhana, which means there's a 5th goal, Panchama Purushartha, right? There's not just 4, there's a 5th, an ultimate goal, which is Krishna Prema Dhana, which is the treasure of love for Krishna. Or it also speaks of the Parama Purushartha, or the Purushartha Sarda, the supreme goal of life, or the ultimate goal. So what Sri Chaitanya was teaching and what Srimad Bhagavatam teaches, when we talk about what Sri Chaitanya teaches, he's speaking to these important people, particularly when he's speaking to the Goswamis like Rupa and Sanatan, and he's instructing them on how to fine-tune their understanding of all of Vedanta. And the way that he teaches to do that is you go to the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the commentary on Vedanta given by the author himself, Srila Vyasadeva. And he's going to say, there you're going to find it's abundantly clear that the ultimate, the Parama Purushartha, is prema, is divine love. It's not moksha, it's prema. And so in Bhakti Yoga, we focus on prema, on that, as more important than any of the other 4. If the other 4 are going to be engaged, they're going to be engaged as servants of achieving divine love. Like, I may be dharmic on a path. I'm being dharmic out of love for Krishna. It's like that. And this is where Sandy said, is there another way to think of kama, which means the desire, the fulfillment of desire? And we're not saying that one has to give that up exactly. It's just it has to be in relation to Krishna. Now, Krishna is going to say even dharma. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is going to say, Sarva Dharma Parityajya. Give up all of the religious dharma. Give up all of those, whether it be rituals or observances that are part of some religious practice, and just surrender unto me with love. That's the Prem Purushartha, the highest goal. So when you get to Srimad Bhagavatam, you see all these ancient texts are speaking to different people on different levels. So for someone that Prem isn't even in their wheelhouse, like even thinking about it or aspiring for it, to get them to practice Dharma. Hey, if you're dharmic, you're going to get wealth and your desires are going to be fulfilled. And when you get older, you can let go of it. And that
sounds pretty good. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Yeah. But for those that have the, I mentioned to you, I've been listening to some of the recordings of Radhika Raman.
I was too, after you told me. I listened to his glorifications of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Very good lecture. Huh? Really
excellent. Good. Yeah. So in that one, I think that was the one where he mentioned, look at where the Srimad Bhagavatam starts. It's the person that it's being spoken to right at the very beginning is Maharaj Parikshit, who was a king who had everything and had all this power, but he was an incredibly deep devotee of Krishna. And he had in other words, when he heard that he was going to die, well, this is what he said first. He said, if you go to the Devi Purana, it mentions that there, I think he said there was a priest and a king or something like that, and they had lost all of their wealth, and they were in anxiety because of that. And then one sage speaks to them and speaks to them about letting go of everything, like renounce it all. Think more in terms of moksha. Think more in terms of letting go of all this stuff. So it was a sage speaking to people that were on a lower level of consciousness, people that when they lost wealth, they were in total anxiety and suffering and so on. Maharaj Pariksit was losing everything. He was not only losing his kingdom and his family and his power, his prestige, his wealth. He was cursed to die in 7 days, and he knew it, but he was not lamenting at all. He was on a very elevated stage of consciousness. The point being is that the Bhagavatam is giving the highest truths. It's for when you're ready to hear it all. He was ready to hear it all. And so there we're going to find very clearly that prema is the very goal of life. Divine love for Krishna, unmotivated, uninterrupted, delivers Atma Supersiddhi, the complete satisfaction of the self. So that's our prem purushartha. That's what we're looking for in bhakti. That's our goal. That's our aim. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, sort of like an educated consumer or a very, very fine, refined devotee or refined student is ready to hear. Maharaj Pariksit was that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not going to get half the message. It's to take you one step forward. In Bhagavatam, they're taking you right to that fifth step.
I don't know if I have much to add to what you said, but that is the current that the Vedas encourage us towards, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, because it's the natural current of life. You don't have to renounce everything in this material world as you get older. The material world's taking it all away from you. You know what I mean? So your idea of getting a job and being, following ethics in this world and filling your desires, that's what's happening in the material world anyway. And there is a path of that, but there's ways to refine it. There's ways to refine your dharma. And then you see the world as, okay, I'm on this conveyor belt moving upwards. And that is all for Sanatan Dharmis, people within the Vedic culture. A lot of times we have to get off of sinful desires and we have to stabilize ourselves instead of, running to try to fulfill our material desires that don't fulfill us. So they say, well, there's a conveyor belt here. You'll get some of those desires. It's all going to work out. And bhakti, it always is the curveball in all Vedic teachings. Like surrender all your dharma. It's the curveball. There's actually something higher than these four. What? I've been working so hard on these four. There's something higher. And you'll hear that again and again. Because what it does, it puts those four in perspective of actually what you really want in this world. And what we all really want is pure love of God. And that's why it's confidential knowledge. It's not for the masses. It's for those who are real deep seekers. And it's above all Vedic customs. And that's why we're a little shocked when there's sort of like a young sannyasi, when like someone renounces the world at a young age. Because we think, wow.
It's considered dangerous because they haven't gone through the whole thing. It's so that they're really ready to let everything go.
Yeah. And sometimes you find that it works, but it's rare because there's so many desires like woven into our DNA. Like good devotees say, I want to take sannyasi, and then take sannyas. I want to give up the world. I want to become a monk for life. And what happens is these deep woven desires, like, I just want a parent. I just want someone to love me. Those are all real desires, and they're not illicit desires within a certain framework. And sometimes they drag that renunciate right off their path, only to okay, I'm gonna have children. Okay, I'm gonna go get married. But what happens is we realize I don't own my children. We realize that even my life partner, my soulmate, I might have to lose them. They might die. They might get sick. I might die. And so the material world is designed to cut away everything that we think is solid in this world. So if you try to jump over it, you're going to get those lessons anyway, and it could drag you off the entire path. So bhakti is set up in such a gradual, healthy way. You'll get all those desires, only to realize those desires won't give you what you really want. And the bhakti path sets the bar as love of God to be the highest. It's like the last rung on the ladder that we're actually reaching for. And all those other, the Purusharthas, they're all meant to get us there. They're not meant, we're not supposed to end there. Okay, I did it. I've got my desires fulfilled, and now I feel free from them. And I want loving service to Lord Krishna.
And not only that, but one can achieve that fifth goal without going through all the others. In other words, you can live at home and never renounce it. And actually, that's going to lead to the next question, I think, because the whole point is the love, right? If you develop that love, then it takes care of what the other four meant to take care of. I could read you quickly, Raghunath, from the Adi Leela. These are 2 verses spoken by Sri Chaitanya to Prakashananda Saraswati, the leader of the Advaita Vedantins there in Varanasi. He said, religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation are known as the 4 goals of life. But before love of Godhead, the 5th and highest goal, these appear as insignificant as straw in the street. For a devotee who has actually developed bhava, developed the sprout of this love, the pleasure derived from dharma, artha, kama, and moksha appear like a drop in the presence of the sea, right? If you really want true happiness, it's found through divine love. And then I could read maybe just a little purport to that. Prabhupada writes some interesting stuff. Maybe this could wrap it up. But he says, while chanting the holy name of the Lord, one should not desire the material advancements represented by religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation from the material world. As stated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the highest perfection in life is to develop one's love for Krishna. And there's another term he uses there, prema pumarto mahan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu matam idam. This is what he taught, that the prema was the highest goal. When we compare love of Godhead with religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, we can understand that these achievements may be desirable objectives for bubukshus, or those who desire to enjoy this material world, and mumukshus, those who desire liberation from it. But they are very insignificant in the eyes of a pure devotee who has developed bhava, the preliminary stage of love of Godhead. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha are the 4 principles of religion that pertain to the material world. Therefore, in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared, Dharma, Projita, Kaitavo, Tra. Cheating religious systems in terms of these 4 material principles are completely discarded from Srimad Bhagavatam, for Srimad Bhagavatam teaches only how to develop one's dormant love of God. So it says cheating religion, and that's the term. It's the 2nd verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, in this Purana, we're not going to take you through these other things that are going to promise you material enjoyment or even the enjoyment of relief from material suffering. We're not interested in that. We're interested in pure love. And when it says cheating, it's kind of like the cheating is you're being offered a promise that this is going to make you happy. But in the end, it's not going to make you happy. And the only thing that's going to truly deliver that deep happiness that every soul is desiring is divine love, and that's bhakti.
Like that. And that does sort of tie into a next question too.
It does.
From Frederick from Sweden via Discord. Discord still's going strong. These guys are having a whole online. I haven't checked it in a long time, but they got a whole world going on there. I'm 44 years old and a beginner on this path of bhakti. And I have a question. On one hand, I hear/read that you should keep living your life, chant and read and hear from scriptures and perform your duties, work, etc., but do it in devotion to Krishna. That this will be sufficient for a person to become pure and be liberated in this life. Then on the other hand, it speaks a lot about only super pure devotees can be liberated. And I interpret/understand this as being the monks. I'm not saying that I feel like I am wasting time and energy doing this, but at the same time, I can sometimes feel like, what's the point when I am probably not going to be a monk anyway? If it's true that one can be liberated in this life, even though you live a normal householder life, then that could probably drive me to try harder and go deeper into Krishna consciousness. Thank you. Good question, huh?
Yeah. Want to
Mhm.
start?
Yeah. I think it's safe to say me and Kostuba know householders who are very, very evolved people.
No doubt.
And the only issue with being a householder, the only issue is there's many issues. There's many issues to deal with in householder life. The first one being your house. Like, okay, I've got a house. If anyone has a house, they know their house has issues. You got to paint the house, you got to fuel the house, you got to keep the house free from drafts. Once you have a household, there's a lot of
Got to get
issues.
a hold on that house.
You got to get a hold on the house. There's diversions. Now, there's a way to go through that household life and keep the main thing the main thing. And that's what we encourage on the podcast. And then all those issues of the household. My son's sick. My son missed his flight. My spouse has got anger issues, or my spouse has had an affair. So many things come up in the material world. It's my partner's birthday that apparently can distract you from the path. A lot of those things can get you more focused on the path, and you learn to put them all in perspective. So a householder they just have to be a little bit expert at what I call the zip line of material existence. The zip lines are like a balancing beam, a slack line, a zip line. What's a zip line?
Zip line.
That's where you're okay.
Yeah,
It can be like a
slide
zip line too. It's like a slack line where you don't want to fall off this. It's a very delicate walking pattern of balance. And so the householder has to balance all the minutia of mundane stuff with their core identity as pure spiritual self. And you can do that. Sometimes people will say, well, it's easier just to give it all up. Give up the house, give up the kids, give up the spouse. I'm going to live in isolation. And we see people do that too. The problem with that is, and we were saying earlier, it's sort of woven into our DNA very often to want that temporary cushion, that temporary romance, a temporary soft home, etc. We need, there tends to be a desire for a softness in our material existence, a warmth. And so what we try to do is we adopt certain type of austerities within even the household life. And sometimes people just have a strong calling and say, you know what? I did it and now it's over. And they go through it, and then they walk away from it. At the same time, you don't have to give up household and spouse to become a liberated soul, especially if your household and spouse is supportive of you becoming a liberated soul. Then it makes it even more beautiful and more easy to do. When I see Cindy and Stephen working together to serve Krishna and Guru, I think, oh, what a perfect couple. They've taken sannyas. This is their sannyas. They've renounced the desire for sense gratification. They just have, here's my mission for you, Krishna. And it's a very attractive thing, And so, no, the purity can be there in both situations, and both can be distractions. Everything has its distractions. No one gets a pass on distractions. Thank you.
That would have been a good takeaway for your takeaways on.
Take that away.
Q&A days. Yeah, no, Raghunath, I think you answered it beautifully. Frederick, I think it would be safe to say that the biggest misconception regarding spiritual life, particularly when it comes to the Eastern paths, is that the goal is achieved through renunciation necessarily, right? That it's all about renunciation. And particularly when it comes to bhakti, it's not about renunciation. Renunciation may play a role, but it's not the goal. The goal is actually devotion, full dedication of one's heart and soul to God. Through that, one lets go of everything in this world. And that love, the intensity of that love generates one's momentum through it.
Mm-hmm.
You just mentioned that you mentioned two people getting married, that's their sannyas, right? That's their renunciation. Now that may almost sound a completely self-contradictory statement.
Heresy. Some people could take that. Some Hindus could take that as heresy.
But
That's
all
not how the
they have to
Bhagavad
do is
Gita sees it.
open up the Bhagavad Gita, at 6th chapter, first text.
Boom.
You know, anashrita karma palam karyam karma karotiya sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriya.
I love our philosophy.
It's
It
great,
makes
right?
so much sense.
It makes so much sense. Arjuna was on that battlefield. He was a man that had all kind of worldly duties. He was married. He had children. It had social responsibilities. And when he was up against it in life, he thought, maybe I should be a sannyasi. Maybe, he said, I think it would be better for me to live as a beggar, right? Than to take up this social responsibility I have of defending, you know, in this war. And Krishna, at no point in the Bhagavad Gita, the most important book, you know, of spiritual philosophy from India, at no point did he instruct Arjuna, yes, that's what you should do. You should become, you should externally renounce. As a matter of fact, he often is saying the exact opposite. Like in this verse where, in very powerful language, he says, one who is unattached to the fruits of their work and yet works as they're obligated, right? They're taking on all of their worldly responsibilities, is in the renounced order of life. That person, and the word that he uses is sannyasi and yogi. It says he's the true sannyasi, he is the true yogi, the true mystic. And then he flips, and then he gets even make it a strong. So let's do this whole thing. He says, if you work as you're obligated to work, if you're a father, then you're a good father. If you're a mother, and you're a good mother. If you're a good spouse, if you have a certain business and you do it in a very ethical and virtuous way, you know, if you're a teacher and you teach in a very virtuous way, if you're a politician and you're a politician in a virtuous way, you know, whatever it is, your responsibilities in this work, if you do them in a virtuous way without being attached to the fruits, you're not doing it for a selfish motive. You're doing it to serve God and to serve others. If you do that, he said, you're a sannyasi because you've renounced the selfish desire. You're the true mystic because you're actually purifying your consciousness through this. And then he says, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty, which is what the sannyasi is, right? Lights no fire means, like, there's rituals that involve lighting fires for all of the worldly things that one does in the Hindu culture, right? If you get a new house, just like
You light a fire.
There was a marriage that you helped officiate yesterday, Raghunath, right? So
we lit a fire.
you lit a fire. You do, it's part of the
struggled
ritual.
a little lighting that fire. Struggled a little bit. But
Okay.
the fire finally got up there. Needed
All
more
right, good,
camphor.
good. And you know, if you get a new home, you light a fire. You know, if there's a birth of a child, you light a fire. So one that lights no fire means the one who's walked away from family life and worldly responsibilities, performing no duties. Krishna is saying that person is not a real renunciate, the one who works in this world is. So it's kind of the opposite of the impression that Frederick has gotten, that you could get that impression from reading Upanishads, say.
Right.
But the thing is, bhakti is not dependent on renunciation. It's only dependent on devotion itself. And so Frederick was saying, you know, he's heard that it requires this to become super pure, to become free. And that, in one sense, that's true, but super pure means I want nothing else. It's an intense focus, an undistracted focus. It's not half-hearted. It's got to be full-hearted. But it doesn't mean leaving home and becoming a monk.
Right.
It means with a full heart. It's as simple as this, particularly in this day and age. Respect every living entity and chant these names of God without any sense of false prestige. If you can do that intensely, just that. It doesn't matter if you're living at home or if you're living in the forest. It doesn't matter if you have a family to care for or if you're a wandering mendicant. But that is the that's where the intensity is needed, and that can be cultivated in a family life, and it can be cultivated as a monk. I know people that are doing it incredibly with a great intensity and great purity as married people, both men and women. And I also know people that are monks that are doing the same thing. And so, Frederick, I love where you're coming from. You're coming from, I love your desire. And you mentioned at the end that you said, if it's true that one can be liberated in this life, even though you have a quote unquote normal householder life, then that would probably drive me to try harder and go deeper into Krishna consciousness. Well, Frederick, go for it, because that is the case, right? That is the case.
Nice.
All right.
Nice. All right. It's 7:52 here in Nashville.
We're going to do this. This next one is such a good question. I would love this.
I know.
Do you want to go over time with it maybe? Or do you want to end
We can't
really
go over
early?
time here today. There's many duties here in Nashville to perform.
Maybe we save this question. Maybe we jump ahead and let's, what a faster question is. It was Melanie Pope's.
Pope Pius?
Yeah. Let me read this one to you, Raghu. Okay.
Okay.
She writes, Haribo, Raghu, Kastuba, and Mara. I hope this email finds you well. I cannot wait to be back on Zoom with all of you soon once my schedule aligns with yours again. Thank you for your service and for all that you give us. Well, thank you, Melanie. Truly, your teaching and guidance has changed my life, and the community you have cultivated has brought some of the dearest people into my life. Well, that's wonderful to hear.
Sweet.
I feel like I'm connected in Bhakti across the world. I feel like that too. It is so beautiful. Wonderful. So with that, I have a very simple question. I was wondering if you have, we get this question on occasion. I was wondering if you have a good book recommendation which simply outlines Bhakti in a way that is completely approachable for someone who knows nothing about Bhakti, wants to understand a little more, and doesn't have a big desire to be invested in a larger book. Maybe something like Kastuba's Bhakti 101 presentation. Thank you all so much for any guidance you can give. Hare Krishna. You want to start, Raghu?
A good book recommendation, Punk to Monk by
There you
Raghunath
go.
Ray Capo. Find your own spiritual journey in his. I will say mine is a good introduction, even if people don't like punk music. And I think the stories of people, like my favorite introduction is, I sound like a heretic for saying this, but I'm not, Radhanath Swami's Journey Home. Because
Might
people will
sound
say,
like
well, why don't you
heretic,
give them
yeah.
one of Prabhupada's books? I find that as for a new person, there's a lot of words and philosophy. Prabhupada was writing for everybody. He was writing for a lot of Indians, and I felt like in my own life, I got more turned into bhakti by hearing Americans, because I'm American, go through their American struggles and people telling me their story of how they got into bhakti. Matter of fact, I can honestly say I moved into the temple before I read any of Prabhupada's books. I just loved the devotees and I loved the philosophy.
You didn't read any Prabhupada's books before?
Not like fully cover to cover. Is that
Oh.
pathetic or what? Whatever. That's
I'm
my truth.
surprised.
That's my truth.
All right.
And then I read them,
Live it.
and then I
Live it,
resonate with them more. So I love Radhanath Swami's because I think it's a story, and I like stories, and it's peppered with the entire philosophy, and you could hear it from this person's experience. And truthfully, that's why I wrote my book, to share my story as well. So Journey Home would be a good one. And it's a great thing to give to people, and people can see their journey in Maharaj's journey.
Nice.
That's what I would do, and I think it is a good 101. Otherwise, sometimes I say Science of Self-Realization, which is a Q&A by Prabhupada book, which I really like, and I think it's a little bit easier to understand. These books, Bhagavad Gita is studied by great scholars and theologians and academics. So sometimes if all we're used to is YouTube shorts, it may not fit in with my mind now I'm going to study, spiritual philosophy. But Bhagavad Gita, as it is by Srila Prabhupada, that is a very powerful book, and a real game changer as well.
Yeah.
Sir?
Yeah.
That's all.
Should I share anything?
Yes, but yeah,
See,
that's
what
what I
we
thought.
do. We cue each other up.
Share with me.
Okay. I agree. I agree with you. I think Punk to Monk is on the top of my list for for books, and also I agree. Radhanath Swami's. That Bhakti 101 presentation. Basically, that's the book that I'm putting together, and I really hope that will serve this purpose. Taking someone from you're not that body all the way up to Goloka Vrindavan, just step by step in a very clear and relatable way. That's kind of what I'm trying to put together, but that doesn't quite exist yet. Although, if you want the first half of that, you could always get that on Vani as like not as a book, but as a, it's called Wisdom of the Sages. That's the name that they gave to the course that I gave on Vani. So that's like 17 chapters.
Copyright infringement
on myself. But there's one other book I thought of, which is just a real simple. It's how they have travel books where you open up and it's 2 pages, like Rome, or or not even Rome, but it would be like this facet of Rome, like the Vatican or something. You open up 2 pages and it's got several different on those 2-page layout. It's got like not only the copy or the text that's explaining in depth what this place is about, but it's got little photographs, and then it's got like a sidebar with focusing more on one aspect of it. So it's real introductory. There's a book about bhakti like that, made very simple, very visual, and just broken down into different categories, and that is called The Hidden History of India by Stephen Rosen.
That's a cool book.
Yeah. So that's like, if you really want someone that's just like, just explain to me in the simplest way, that book could be helpful too.
Mikey Prama just put on the board. He said, that interview I did on Joe Rogan, a lot of people, they might not give credit to Vedic teachings, but they'll give credit to Joe Rogan as like an authority. So sometimes they say, oh, you want to hear about Vedic information? Check out this clip or the YouTube episode or the Spotify episode that I was on Joe Rogan, because we talk, it's conversational, it's personal, and it's peppered with our philosophy as well. Peppered. Well, sometimes people, they're going to be like, oh, Vedic culture, whatever is this, but they expect, they look up to, they may look up to Joe Rogan as like, okay, well, he's talking about it. He seems interested in this. And so it depends on who you're trying to explain this to.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, Raghu, I think we're done, huh?
That's it, my friend.
I'm in Vrindavan for tomorrow's show.
Oh, that's nice. That's exciting.
Move on from Govardhan to...
What are you going to do?
Punch Krosh Vrindavan.
Punch Krosh, walking around Vrindavan.
Well,
go early.
Tomorrow is the...
go early.
Tomorrow's the disappearance day of my Guru Maharaj, and I'm right here by his samadhi at Govardhan. So in the morning, I'll attend some ceremonies there. And then I'll go to Vrindavan and do the show, and then go to the Kirtan after that. That's my plan.
That's a day, Prabhu.
Thank you. We're at 6 a.m. tomorrow, right?
5 a.m.? What are we doing? Wait a second. We're going to show at 5 a.m. tomorrow? God.
Give me 5 a.m. Why 5?
Because we're in Nashville.
Oh, there you go.
I'm unhappy about this.
Oh, just go with it, brother. One who's not attached to the, what is it?
I'm attached to health. Health first. We should make it 7 a.m. all week, which is 4:30 for you.
No, that's not good for me.
Be detached. Be detached. One who is unattached by the
I gotta
times.
What time is the kirtan in the temple? What time is the kirtan in the temple?
Like 6 a.m. or 6 p.m.
Kirtan. 6 p.m. Then I could do it. So you want to do that? 7?
7 a.m. Eastern time.
Real professional around here.
I'm not going to be able to get up. I'm not going to be able to get up tomorrow. My body's going through crap right now, just with all my flying around. I got to be super delicate because I can't get sick for the next month. So, that's the deal. Tomorrow, beautiful people. It is a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Good to have Bhakti Vinod and Doyal here, live. And congratulations again to Stephen and Cindy. We love you guys. We're part of your family. And we give you all blessings to move forward and to exude the holy name and bhakti wherever you guys go. Thanks, everybody. Kastuba, say some prayers for us in Vrindavan.